Hello, everybody, and welcome into another draft video here at the Hockey Writers. As we continue covering the 2024 NHL Draft coming up in the next few days, and got Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer here with me, and we are going to talk steals and potential surprises coming up in the draft here, because as we all know, that surprises happen almost every draft year. I don't think we've predicted a first round in its entirety completely right. I mean, that's just how the nature of it is. If we ever did, I think we should throw a party and get some lottery tickets, because I don't think it'll ever happen. But thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dayton, for coming on. And let's start with some surprise first round picks. Alla, the Tyler Bouchers, the Nolan Allens, the guys that we don't have prepared pieces for the first round. So, Peter, I'll start with you. Is there anyone that could potentially jump into the first round that we're not anticipating?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of names that I have on my list. I'm looking at like names like the Cole Baudouins and Sam O'Reillys, where maybe they may not be the quickest skaters or have the most offensive upside, but they have that, excuse me, style play that'll get playoff teams into the playoffs. Baudouin is extremely physical. He is built for that type of situation game because of the strength that he possesses down low along the boards. He could win battles very easily. And Sam O'Reilly is very opportunistic. He always gets into open ices very well and seems to, underrated hands as well. Can pull off moves in tight very well and can be very deceptive. Um, those are just two names that I think can possibly squeak in because teams love those kind of players that have that underrated value. And Cole Baudouin with the size, someone's definitely going to take him. Um, I do like also John Mustard's from the Waterloo Blackhawks. I think he is very underrated and possibly could push for the first. I have him as a very early second, 38th overall, my final rankings. But in one of the mock drafts that I did, my personal one, I had him going to the Carolina Hurricanes because of that speed, the skill, the ability to play at a fast pace and be very deceptive. Um, I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but I do think highly of him that if I was a team, I would probably try and push for him because of what he was able to do. And he had a fantastic rookie season in the USHL, which is very promising to see.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so those are three names that really stood out to me as possibly pushing in for that top or one of those first round spots. But if I had to pick one out of those three, most likely it'll be Cole Baudouin.
Hmm. I see that. Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Do you see anyone being the Tyler Boucher? All of a sudden, you're like, why is he that high?
Um, so there was a lot of talk again, going back to even like when we were doing our last episode of Prospect Corner, Becca Seneca possibly going in the top five. Um, don't know for sure because I do think there are a lot of players with a little bit more upside, but you can't deny his power forward like game where, you know, he's starting because he had that massive growth spurt from last season to this one. He's starting to use his size a little bit more to his advantage. Still a work in progress. Skating's improved tremendously where if he is able to combine all three of those aspects into his game and incorporate that very well, he's going to be very tough to stop. And his hands are very soft and smooth in tight spaces. When he gets in the middle of the ice, yeah, I think he has some of the best hands that could make him a top 10 pick. Again, I probably wouldn't have him top five, but there's that slim chance where, yeah, he's a first rounder. He could be a top 20, top 15, but he could vault himself even further up. But then again, kind of not necessarily like Tyler Boucher because a lot of us had him as a third, possibly
Yeah,
third rounder. But in terms of like improving his stock overall throughout the season, he's definitely one name that you could probably keep an eye on.
for sure. Sorry, Dayton, we're like piling on the Tyler Boucher
No,
Senators.
you should. It's a
I
terrible
should.
pick.
What about you? Do you see anyone, any surprise first round picks? Not necessarily the Tyler Boucher, but anyone that could potentially be a first rounder that we're not anticipating at this point.
Well, I was thinking about some of those guys who could be Tyler Boucher-esque. Um, and I think about what Tyler Boucher is and why he got into the first, and it was because he had the size and the physicality that made teams more competitive, especially in the bottom six. I think he would have been a fantastic second round pick. He was not a first round pick, and the additional pressure has ruined his career.
Yeah.
I think he won't ever sniff the NHL, and if he does, it'll be a cup of coffee. And you can come at me if you want, and that doesn't happen. That's fine. No one has, as far as I know, has had that projection of just being so subpar in junior and then all of a sudden becoming a solid NHLer.
Yeah.
It's just ruined by injuries and pressure, and it's the perfect example of the Dorion era.
Yeah.
Anyways, aside from that rant, a couple of guys who I think I could see sneak into the first round, who have that size and that physicality that teams love, but maybe are lacking in that intelligence or that overall compete. Gabriel Eliasson was a bit of a climber in some drafts. I think he doesn't have a complete game, but he has a 6'7" frame.
Yeah.
That's tough to pass
Yeah.
up. You got a couple of big right-handed defensemen in Adam Kleber. Kleber? I haven't heard that one said yet. Ben Danford and Charlie Elick.
Yeah.
All those guys have good size and good physicality, and I don't know about the rest of their game. Charlie Elick, I'm especially concerned about in his offensive presence. He seems to be too eager in the viewings I've seen. And he chases the puck a little bit, and he makes questionable decisions. Not as much as some other defensemen I've watched, but it's there, and I just wonder about that. I think someone might take him, though, because he's got that size and that right-handed shot. And then one guy I'd be really concerned about slipping into the first round, but could totally see it, Adam Yeko. I think he is a fantastic second, third round pick. He's a risk. He's a big guy. He's a bottom six kind of player. He's a center. Put him in front of the net, make him push guys around. Great. Spend a top 15 pick on it? No, thanks. He lacks that overall intelligence of what to do with the puck and what to do, as a top six player. I don't think he has that in him. You saw it a little bit maybe in the under 18s. He looked okay there. There's just not enough proof for me to warrant a top pick on him, but I can see him doing that. I think I think someone might take a risk on him like that.
Yeah. Size still talks. I mean, in the NHL, it's just sometimes it's not as big of a thing anymore, but teams still love size, and you still need size in the playoffs, and we've seen it. So, I mean, these guys, that's why they get drafted in the first round, and where you're like, yeah, I'm not sure they should. Maverick Lamoureux, we talked about so much last year, and he ends up being in the first round, but did he deserve to be in the first round? I don't know. But yeah, just size. Everyone loves size, and even though, I mean, yeah, it still has a place in the NHL, but I don't think you should be drafting. I think you're drafting more skill guys in the first round than a big guy, but that's just me. All right. Second part, let's talk about the steal of the draft. And Mark picked his, usually does an article on this. It's Kieran Walton. Peter, I know you did his prospect profile the day before he put that article out. So perfect timing. I don't know if you guys collaborated on that one, but
maybe not.
But there you go.
Let's just call it a happy coincidence.
Happy coincidence. So his is Kieran Walton. Peter, who is your steal of the draft, or potential steal of the draft?
Yeah, it's always tough to find steals because you want to find those diamond in the rough kind of players, and one that I think definitely could, and after his play this season in the KHL, and that's Ilya Nabokov from Magnitogorsk. 21 years old, not the biggest goaltender, 6'1", 179, but the numbers that he had during the regular season and in the playoffs to push them to the Gagarin Cup, absolutely phenomenal. 23-13-3 in the regular season, 930 save percentage, 215 goals against average. Those numbers were just even more ridiculous in the playoffs. 16-6, 942, 182. Obviously with goaltenders, you tend to hit more luck, or there's more luck on hitting goaltenders later in the rounds and finding those types of players that could succeed later on, instead of using that first round pick on a bona fide goaltender, because it seems like the exact opposite happens with goaltenders. It's usually the names that you don't pay attention to that tend to, have a better future. And you see the success that you see with, names like Igor Shesterkin and Ilya Sorokin, although I don't think they were overagers when they were drafted or selected. But the pro experience that Nabokov already has, the ability to post up big numbers, even though he's not, I would say he's average height for a goaltender. Usually you look for that 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" kind of guy to fill up the whole entire net. But his movement in the crease is very, very phenomenal. Strong at locating and tracking the puck very well. Can see through traffic. Doesn't give up a whole lot of second or third chance opportunities. And when he does, he's got that agility to quickly get over and into position, and doesn't. He's aggressive with his movements, but he's not too overly aggressive. So he's a reason why I think he could be a really big steal if you're looking for a goaltender in the third, fourth, or fifth round, because he could provide really good value.
Yeah, I was looking at Nabokov too the other day, and we were talking about with the bold predictions that he could get drafted over Carter George, and that potentially could happen. He did have a really good. He's an overager, like you said, but playing the KHL and being dominant there, that's a professional league that's not that far away from the NHL. That's pretty big for a goaltender. So we'll see where he gets drafted. I think he's probably a second round pick, but maybe not. I mean, he may end up being a really solid starting goaltender. Dayton, what about you? Who would your steal of the draft be?
Yeah, I realize I gave you 5 names for my surprise picks. I'll keep this one a little bit more limited. I think the steal is going to be Justin Porier. I think he might have the best shot in the draft. It's so strong. It's so accurate. And to me, he reminds me a lot of players like Bobby Brink, Cole Caulfield, Logan Stankoven, who were passed over because they don't have the size, and yet they had the shot and they had all the goals in junior. Surprise, surprise, they are fantastic in the NHL. I think he has the potential to follow in those footsteps. And he is only 5'9". He will fall into the second, probably the third. And I think he has all the strength that you'd need to build on a total NHL player. And someone's going to definitely walk away with a gem way later than they should.
Yeah, there's a few names like that. Mine is Alexander Zetterberg. I think he's gonna, again, very undersized but very skilled, and he's gonna be a guy that's going to definitely be drafted in the later second, maybe third, because he's small. And I mean, he's just got so much skill. And I draft him in the second round, but I don't think anyone will. And I think you keep an eye on that name, not just because the name Zetterberg, not related to Henrik Zetterberg, but he does have a lot of skill, and I think he's going to end up being a steal when we look back on this draft in about 5 years. And he's doing stuff that Stankoven and guys, so Zetterberg's my steal of the draft. All right. Well, keep an eye on those names coming up, and make sure to check out all of our other stuff at thehockeywriters.com. And the draft is just around the corner, and we've got lots more to come on the YouTube channel, but stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.